Yo! Welcome back to Finnegan's Garage. This time we're cutting and grinding and welding our way to a better 61 Cadillac Coupe de Ville. It's gonna be awesome. Let's go! Welcome back to Finnegan's Garage, especially those of you that are already subscribed to this channel. And if you're not, what are you waiting for? Hit the button. And then hit that other thing, the little bell thing, because gotta be honest, even if you're subscribed, YouTube's not gonna tell you this video is going live. But if you hit the bell, I believe there's a 30 to 40% chance they might let you know every time I drop a new video. Even that's not guaranteed. We are real close to 1 million subscribers on this channel, which is a milestone that I don't give a lot of thought to, but I noticed it the other day and I went, huh, 988. We're almost there. Let's do this. And I don't know what happens when you hit 1 million. I think you get a plaque, but you know, a plaque would be kind of cool. So, yeah, they don't give you any money, Jack. That's not how that works, unfortunately. Anyway, we're back to work on the Cadillac because our goal is to put this car together and drive it in 2025. And now that I've put it out there, I kind of have to make it happen. So, the last video we made on this car, we took several steps backwards in removing the body and completely ripping out the floor of the car because the floor was too high for the seats we want to run. So we're going to remedy that. For now, we're going to put a new X in there. We're going to make a drive shaft safety loop, a new transmission crossmember. We're going to fortify everything under where the seats go, ultimately leading us to making new seat mounts. And once that's done, then we can start eyeballing putting a new floor in this thing. So first things first, we're going to take out the old transmission crossmember and mounts because I just don't like them. That's pretty much it. The transmission's in there. It's not falling out. I just don't like the way it looks, which is lame because that's under the car. I shouldn't even bother with that, but here we are. Did you know that right now there are less than 3 weeks left in the sweepstakes to win the ultimate rad car from the 80s and 90s, the 3rd gen Camaro, and I have a 1991 model Z28 5-speed small block Chevy that has less than 23,000 miles on it. And if you go to fsmgarage.com, you can enter my rad contest to win my car, my tools, autographed merch, whatever you need to get the 3rd gen vibe going in your life. That's right, we got a brand new shirt. We also got a brand new Vet Cart shirt, new merch, cars that are basically brand new, everything you need to have the best summer ever. Stay rad. Back to the show, right now. Essentially, all the real estate from the rear end to the transmission is open, which is pretty sweet, except there's no cross members in here, and there's really nothing triangulated the frame rails. The outriggers will keep that frame rail from moving around too much, and that one. But as far as the chassis itself, there's really not much holding it together. And the reason I want to change the transmission crossmember is it had these stand-ups on it that it didn't need. Like, you could have just used a bar, drilled and tapped the frame and bolted these flanges too. You could have through bolted these. You could have welded the round tube to the frame, got all the way out here and put a flange and just made the middle removal. There were a lot of things that could have been done, and I don't know why, but this drives me nuts. And given I want to put an X here, and the X, I want to cover a fair amount of real estate, the X is going to land right about where that cross member is mounting. So first things first, pull the cross member, cut the old mounts off, put our X in, then build a new tubular cross member that unbolts right here in the middle. That's our plan. And as always, you know, I'm not a professional. I never went to school for any of this. I'm not an engineer, mechanic, machinist, none of this. I just I have a pretty decent history of putting stuff together that usually doesn't rip in half or fall apart. So I'm just gonna go, yep, that looks pretty good, and this tube looks pretty good, and we'll squirt it together, and I'm sure it'll be fine. But don't do it at home if you see something wrong, or feel free to jump in the comments and tell me, yo, Mike, you're an idiot. I mean, it happens all the time, every day pretty much. Go ahead, you could be one of them too. If it makes you feel better, call me an idiot. It's all good. All right, first things first. The other thing our new X is gonna do is give us a better place to put a drive shaft safety loop. the drive shaft safety loop that was in the car was all the way at the back, not the front. And the reason you want one up front is to put it near the U-joint at front, so that if it breaks and the drive shaft wants to fall and hit the ground, it doesn't make your car endo at 120 miles an hour.
Act like a pogo stick?
Yeah, you don't want that. So we're going to do one up here. There's nothing wrong with having one back there, but you really need one up here for safety.
Oh yeah, it needs it.
It is a little springy.
It's good.
Alright, now we can cut some mounts. There we go. And all we got to do is knock that weld down, knock the welds down from the one we did earlier, and then we can start putting our X in.
Okie
Cross member is out, so are some of the other mounts that were in here. Now what we're going to do is figure out where our front U-joint is going to be, because we know that's the general area where we want our drive shaft safety loop to go. And then we're going to try to land our X where we have some bars going, adjacent to that to make our hoop off of in our trans mount. So I know that from the seal of our trans about 3 inches rearward is where that front U-joint is. So if I use this deal, mark 3 inches right there, and come back here, mark 3 inches. I know that is where our U-joint's going to end up at. A lot of different ways to cut this, especially since we're not fish mouthing it, we're not intersecting with another round object like a tube.
Yet.
And so this can be cut with a sawzall, a death wheel, a bandsaw. We've got a lot of options here.
Ooh.
Yeah, this should be too long. That's good.
It's a death tube.
That's what we want. So we're welding this together with a Miller Multimatic 220 AC/DC, and if you guys have never seen it, it's a 3-process welder. Did that turn off? No, it's a different one.
This one.
It's that one that's failing us. It will MIG weld, it will TIG weld, it will stick weld. I've never stick welded with it. I don't have any intentions of doing that. But I use it constantly to tack things together in TIG mode here. And then if those parts are removable from the car, I'll take them to the bench and weld them where I'm a better welder. But I do a lot of MIG welding with it. And this entire chassis is MIG welded. What is not MIG welded is the roll cage, because this is made out of chromoly, and so this is all TIG welded. But everything under this, MIG welded. So we'll be MIG welding in our crossbars today. It has this thing, which is really cool. It's called AutoSet Elite. And essentially what you do is you choose your wire thickness, your material thickness. It automatically sets the output of the machine, the volts and the amps. But if you want to tweak it, which I do right now because I'm tacking together tubing that is about 1/8 of an inch thick to a chassis that is slightly thicker than 1/8 of an inch. I don't want to go up to 3/16. That's probably too hot. But on 1/8 of an inch, it's leaving really tall tacks that later on when you run over to make your actual bead, they leave a raised profile. They put too much material in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tweak it a little bit. I'm just going to go up to 18.1 volts and like 310 WFS, whatever the hell that means. I thought that was how fast the wire's coming out. Wire foot per second? Yeah, we'll go with that.
That's would be my guess.
Yeah, wire feet per second. Sure, why not? Let's go with that. And I love this welder. It works great. All right, let's tack it in. Okay.
Want to explain what we're doing?
Yeah! So what we're doing right now is we're fish mouthing this tube, because this tube has to intersect that tube, and if you look, there's a big old gap when you run those two round things into each other. But if you take this shape and you put it on this tube, then it makes a nice tight joint that you can weld to, and it's mucho strongo. So a lot of ways you can do this. I've done it a lot of times with just an angle grinder. You can do it with a hole saw and run it that way, or you can use an abrasive tubing notcher like this one. This is from a company called Ameribraid, made right here in America, and it will make short work of going and putting that round shape into this round tube. We use the seam in this tube as a guide, so I know this is the basic angle I need in relationship to the other tube. As long as I keep this angle perfectly straight up, we should get in the ballpark of where we need to be. And to make sure I can finesse this into place, this is actually a 1 inch, actually 1 1/4 inch diameter sanding barrel here. This is 1.5 inch tube, so this is actually going to put a divot in here that's smaller than I need, but then I can hand finish it with a flap disc or a grinder to make sure it's perfect. So see, it won't be perfect because again I used a 1 inch instead of 1.5 inches, but if you look, it's closed the gap up a lot already. And you can see how the shape of one tube is starting to match the other one. I've also cut this tube longer than I need it to be. This is the shape and the line of the other one we're intersecting with. So now I can go in there and hand finish this and make it perfect. Let's go see how close we got. This angle is money.
That's going to change.
And it's off-centered. So as we shorten it, we're going to move this tube down here, more to the center of this, more to the center of that, and then we're going to end up where we need to be. Let's try it again. That'll be a subtle change. Let's weld it. Okay, our X is tacked in place. Fits really good. I'm totally happy with it. Joe and I kicked butt on it. The other thing I want to do is I want to put another round tube cross member from here to here, because there is nothing bracing between the two lower link bar mounts from our rear suspension. So we'll do a round one from here to here. It should clear the drive shaft just fine, but we are going to throw the drive shaft in one more time just to make sure that when the rear suspension droops out, the drive shaft is nowhere near this bar if we put it there. Right, time to bend some tube. We need a cross member to connect the two mounting points for our lower link bars. And right now, if we just put this straight piece of tube in there, it's real close to the drive shaft, like too close. I don't like it. Might not ever hit it, but if you ever have to disconnect the coilovers and drop the rear end down to get the wheels and the tires off the car, that's going to be a problem. So what we're going to do is put just a little whoop-de-doo in it. Probably only an inch, 1.5 inches. So we're going to use the same 1.5 inch diameter tubing, and we're going to throw out the tube bender, and we're going to start our bend about 3 inches away from the end of the cross member. And so right now, if I were to put this in here, this is 2.5 inches from the end of the tube, except it's going to move this way before we ever get to the actual start of the bend. It'll probably be closer to 4 inches, if I remember right, for this die. And this is an electric over hydraulic tube bender that a long, long time ago I traded for a welder to some random guy off of Facebook Marketplace. Actually, I've had this long enough, this might have been a Craigslist swap. Might not even be Facebook Marketplace. Alright, let's put the seam of our tubing up so we know where up is. engage the world's loudest bender. There we go. Here's our start a bend. And my Sharpie. Alright, there's our start a bend. Right there. Let's go, I don't know, 15 degrees. So that means that's our cross member. It's gone that much. It's going to spring back a little bit, so we're going to go 17 degrees and then release it. Let's take a look at this. So, there's that cap for our 4-link. There's our dip down 15 degrees. All we got to do now is find the center of it and then go the other direction. I think that's going to be plenty. There's the center of our drive shaft. So all we got to do is repeat that on the opposite of this, and we can even leave it long and cut it to length. Should be a hair long. Yep. Hair long, which is okay. Rear cross member is in, welded just on the top, not the bottom. X member's in, same deal, welded on the top, not the bottom. Joe has already cut and notched us what will become our transmission cross member / drive shaft safety loop. And the safety loop will run right over this U-joint here. The transmission cross member will come up here, that mount. That part will be removable there, so you get the trans out. And before we can do any of that, we need to set our driveline angle, which is a combination of the front U-joint operating angle and the rear U-joint operating angle. There's a really good video on YouTube you guys should watch. I'll put a link in the description, and it shows the effects of altering the U-joint angles up and down. And it's great. It's got a sprocket welded on each end of the drive shaft with tape marks, so you can watch it spin around. And you can watch what happens when you take, let's say, the transmission, angle it down, and then take your rear end and angle it down. You can watch and hear the U-joints accelerate and decelerate as they rotate in like an ellipse, not in a circle.
That blew my mind.
Yeah, they're literally speeding up and slowing down as they turn. When you get those angles opposite and equal, say transmission up, rear end down at the same angle, let's say both of them are 3 degrees, they cancel each other out, no vibration, no noise, it's awesome. And there goes that GoPro. Everything's a compromise when you build a car. Most drag cars, the engine is installed level, and ours was installed level. So was our transmission when we turboed it. So we don't want to mess with that. Most drag cars, the rear end, the pinion angle is down, so that as you apply power and the torque tries to rotate this thing up as it climbs the ring gear, it will end up pretty much level, or maybe still a little down. So our rear end, the 4-link, is what establishes the position of the rear end fore and aft, left and right, and also the angle of the pinion. Currently that is set at 3 degrees down. We're going to move that probably to 1.5, 2 degrees down. In theory, you should then put the transmission up about 2 degrees, but we're not going to do that. That is what you should do at home if you want everything to rotate perfectly and never have any driveline shake. Do as we say, not as we do, I guess. We've already built the turbo kit for this thing to sit in there level. We're not changing it. And yeah, it's likely that this thing might have a driveline shake at a specific engine speed on the highway. However, it's an old car, it's gonna be loud, it's gonna vibrate anyway, so I'm not worried about that. So we'll build our cross member right where she's at, and she will be good. But again, watch that video because it's killer, and it'll show you how to do it the right way, and then you can ignore that if you want, or do it the right way.
Don't be like us.
Don't be like us. Damn, flat billers. Right on.
All
That's
right,
my
so
neighbor.
we're on pause?
Yeah, it's my neighbor Derry. He has a plastic mock-up big block Chevy that I borrowed before, and apparently he's going to be loaning it again, borrow it again. So yeah, we'll pause the tube bending, go get the block, get our motor mounts from the warehouse, bolt that all back in, then we know exactly where our trans mount is supposed to be. So that's good news. So we're pausing. We'll be back. Those are Lexus parts right there. We just stopped by RK Racecraft in the midst of working on the Cadillac because we thought we'd give you an update on the Lexus. Also because Brian called me and said, hey, I want to show you something. This isn't my Lexus. This is a whole lot of parts for cars that are getting worked on. Like the Lexus motor's over here. Come over here.
Well, I think that's our third member.
We got an intake manifold for our Lexus motor, which is currently sitting on backwards because we thought we were going to run it that way, but it's actually going to sit like this. This will end up going this way. But there's our motor. Our transmission is, I think, in that crate. There's our back wheels. There's our doors. Oh, I think that's our rear end.
Yep.
Which is all fun. None of which I wanted to show you. We actually wanted to show you the Lexus today because a lot has happened. So the front end is kind of halfway done. It has a new firewall, new bars for the mid plate, a new mid plate. All the areas got capped, so now our firewall where your feet go everywhere in that area is now sealed off from the engine compartment, which is cool. Gary rebuilt this part of the funny car cage, and the guys at the shop rebuilt the entire middle section, trans tunnel, bars, everything, trans mount. Basically everything doesn't have black paint on it got redone, either because I didn't fit in it or it was done incorrectly. So all of this stuff is new.
Now you're centered with the steering wheel.
Yeah, we're now centered on the steering wheel. That all got redone.
Head centered in the cage.
Yep, I fit in it. New pedal assembly from CJ Race Cars. And then what we're going to show you today is really cool. We'll just shut the door so you get the full effect. We now have a wing. The wing is bananas. We have a wing, we have a trailer hitch, we have a fuel cell.
Fuel cell, puke tanks.
We have puke tanks, one on each side. The trunk got split in half. This half of it got fastened to the car. This half will hinge up on the factory hinges and then have Zeus fasteners here so you can get to all this stuff. But a lot of work. It's exciting. And I'll admit, I did tell Joe, I'm like, if they call me and say, hey, come pick up the Lexus because it's ready for you and the Cadillac's still not done, I mean, I might just shove the Cadillac in the corner. I don't think there's a lot left to do. I don't think that's going to happen at all. I think it'll be a race to get the Cadillac running and driving before this is a completed roller ready to come home for us to turbo and wire. But they're doing good. They're doing really good. Now I'm going to go home work on the Cadillac.
Yeah, I love the way the back of this looks.
Yeah, it looks like a race car now.
Yeah.
Like that wing is just business, all business. And then you have a trailer hitch.
Right. All right, Cadillac time.
Cadillac time. Let's go. Okay, everybody, we are back from lunch. We are back from visiting RK Racecraft. Got a cool update on the Lexus, which was cool to see. They are plugging away at that thing. It is kind of feeling like a race, though, between which car will be mobile first. Now, the Lexus, they're not turnkeying that car, so they're not wiring it, they're not plumbing it. They're basically making it race legal, safe, mostly like a car. They are going to hang the turbos, but the car will come back here for wiring, plumbing, and the actual turbo kit, and we'll turnkey it here in the garage. But I kind of feel like we should make the Lexus run before they finish that thing, you know, their end of it, which is probably a lot because this is the Cadillac. And every time my phone rings, it slows me down. But I should answer it just in case it's about my car's extended warranty. Nope, not my warranty. And not my wife's, so I'm not answering it.
So, since I've been here, I've never seen the cover off of this right here.
Oh, well, that's the pit of despair. That's where all the excrement from the robot goes.
And that is disgusting.
So what you're looking at is a stainless steel sink for a kitchen that I got at, I don't know, Amazon or Home Depot or something. This is an extension for our table, and these grates are consumable items. This is where you set your plate, and this is where you plasma cut. And you have not experienced the joy of using the robot to plasma cut stuff.
I haven't, because you're like, bandsaw's easier, but bandsaw's broken right now.
Bandsaw's easier, but the bandsaw went down finally after 10 solid years of me using it. Mind you, that bandsaw was built in 1978. And in 10 years, I put 2 blades on it and done 0 maintenance because I can't find any paperwork on it. I actually don't know what it needs in maintenance. I don't even know if I'm using it correctly. I just know that it goes through aluminum, stainless, carbon steel, whatever I need every day of my life. That thing's old reliable. Well, it kicked the tire off the lower wheel. It's laying on the floor there, and we can't cut anything with it. And we're to the part of the exercise here where we have our transmission cross member. We don't have the transmission mount. We have to join the cross member to the mount and to our safety loop. And that's going to be difficult to do because we're going to make it out of plate and the bandsaw went down, except we have a robot. and I've not used it in a long time, but the robot works. We just have to be patient with it because you got to set it up, and it's a whole thing. Once it's all set up, the robot just goes, makes circles, squares, whatever I need. It's done. It's awesome. And we weld it together. But, yeah, what you're looking at there, Joe, is leftover pieces of steel chunks that have rusted when they sat in water for a year. That's all that is. Nothing to be afraid of. Just don't snort it.
Well, this used to drip water in it. At one point, I thought, must have stopped.
No,
yeah, because it ran out of water.
I got tired of it dripping, so I drained it all out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, our Home Depot ball valve stopped. Well, it never worked, actually. It just leaked all the time. I got tired of it leaking, so I threw it
Probably because you used a plastic one and probably dropped some hot stuff down there.
See, and I don't know anything about this stuff, dude. I just was like, yeah, let's put a drain on it. So I did, and here we are. Progress! It's happening! We got the beginnings of our transmission mount, and our drive shaft safety loop is in there. We bent some tubing, welded it in place. Then I went back and cut the middle of that cross member out because it's going to become our transmission mount. And this is the very beginning of it. These two pieces will get welded to that tube. This will get bolted to the bottom of the transmission. This will sit on top of here. It'll get a gusset here and a gusset here. Be all welded together, beautiful like. My bandsaw, after 10 years of non-stop abuse, has left the chat. And I'm going to need a moment of silence for that thing because I really like it and appreciate it. And then we'll move on because we got a car to build, and that thing is what I would normally use to chop up pieces of metal like this and quickly make brackets. But when that broke, I remembered I have a robot in this garage, and I rarely use it because once you put the robot away, you got to set the robot up and calibrate the robot, and it's a whole thing. That usually gets in the way of me using the robot. But I spent a solid 40 minutes once again setting up the robot and uncovering the water table I made for the plasma station and getting the whole thing out and recalibrating it and blowing through metal that didn't quite work out the way I wanted before I got it right. But once I got it right, I made perfectly round holes in 1/8" plate that slides right over our tubing. And now I'm like, well, you know what? I might just gotta leave this thing set up because who knows when I'm gonna get my saw fixed. It's kind of hard to get parts for it. But this thing works wonderfully, and I realize now, I'm an idiot. I should have been using this the whole time because once you get it calibrated, as you're gonna see here, it will zip zop 1/8" plate in like 30 seconds flat, and your bracket is done. And that's not me being proficient in CAD/CAM or Fusion 360 or anything. That's just me taking a piece of cardboard, tracing it with the little stylus that comes with the Arc Droid, and then it just does it. And yeah, that thing's awesome. So anyway, long story short, we got to cut out 2 more pieces of metal, and then we'll mock this up in the car, make sure it's gonna work. Then we'll weld it together. And once the trans mount is in there, we will put the body back on the car so we can finalize the seating position and the steering wheel and stuff. And then we'll probably just build the floor with the body back on the car because we kind of need it on there to figure out where everything's going to get welded to the rockers. And my wife just came home. Don't tell her any of that stuff because plasma cutting in here means smoke up there. Sorry, baby.
I know what you're talking about.
Never happened. I was never here.
Kinda.
So this is the basic screen, and it would take me an hour to show you how to work everything, but we'll just show you this first thing. Whenever you turn it on, first thing you gotta do is hit home, and then the robot, she goes home. Alright, once your robot is home, then it knows where it is, right? Then you drag it wherever you want in your metal, and you go, this is where I want to cut my next piece. Try not to waste stuff. So I'm going to put it there, and I'm going to zero it right there. So this is my starting point. Alright? Then I'm going to go to Trace. It has preloaded shapes. I want a rectangle. We're going to click on the rectangle. Then we're going to choose our width and our height and all that stuff. And then it'll cut it. So let's measure this thing real quick. So we need a rectangle that is 2.5 wide and or long, and we'll go 1.25 inches, 2.5 by 1.25 inches. So come in here, there, okay, 2.5 by 1.250. There we go. And we have it marked for right cut, so it's cutting on the inside of the line. If we do that, it's going to be a little smaller. So we'll go left cut. It's going to cut on the outside of the line. The great thing about this deal is before you start, you can test it. So there's our shape. I want to look in a little closer. So the red line is what we're trying to save. The orange line, I think, is the cut line. So it's going to cut on the outside of it. So what we're going to do is, the electricity is off. We're going to hit run and we're going to watch it. And we're going to make sure that it is cutting a rectangle, but more importantly that it's not going off into a place we don't want it to go. So now it's going to go down, it's going to tap the metal and figure out where everything is. Then it's going to come back up. That looks like a rectangle to me. Okay. I believe if we have air pressure, this will work. Compressed air and electricity cutting metal. Yes! I love it!
Nice.
Dude, faster than my bandsaw, for sure.
Oh yeah.
And then, this is how good of a cut it made.
But there's like hardly any cleanup whatsoever.
Yeah, that little bit of slag you can knock off with a chisel, or you can sand it off, whatever you want. But see that part? That thing goes right there.
Nice.
And now, I blew it. I should have put a hole in it.
Yeah.
Let's revise that. Let's put a hole in it. Because I should have put a hole in it. Okay, no problem. Or we can drill it, but why drill it when we have a machine? Yay!
Perfect. Gotta dig for it.
Should have got the magnet. It's in the swamp now. That's okay. I'm sure it's fine.
It's clean. I cleaned it all out.
That's true. You did get all the schmagma out of there.
That's pretty nasty. Dude, there's so much on that magnet, I don't know if it'll pick anything up anymore.
That's a good point. I might have just brushed right past it.
It should be right down below here. Right next to where that one was sitting.
It's easy to find the parts when they come off the bandsaw. Unless it grabs the part and flings it across the room. That's happened. Oh. Alright, where's the flashlight?
Sleeping with the fishes.
Where's your favorite flashlight? Big giant. Rust mud.
Baja Designs.
That's Joe's favorite flashlight.
It's not seeing past that crap though.
Come on, Baja Designs. Up your game.
Uh-oh. I think our battery's dying. Down the garbage disposal.
That's where it was. I fished in there. Oh, dude. Look at my arm. I'm rusting already.
No problem.
Okay. I like that part. We can work with that. Dude, I just knocked the slag off with my thumb.
That's great.
That's my superpower. If you ever wondered. Removing slag.
Along with
my
bionic
thumbs.
fingers to tighten bolts.
I'm gonna go get this off me before I die. Here.
Alright. I'm going to go clean this up. And we'll get back to this. Well.
Our bolt's a little long. It's just for mock-up though. Don't worry. Don't focus on the stack of washers. That.
Oh.
Like that.
One's backwards.
You passed the test. You can stay. Like that, like that, and then like that. So we gotta go put this back in the car, bolt that to the trans, because I'm pretty sure this angle is off a little bit. And we'll mark it and cut it, and then we'll weld it together. Nice. Dude,
We're good.
nailed it. Here we go, everybody. Our custom cross member is tack welded together, and because we didn't weld it into the chassis, we can remove the whole thing from the car, unbolt it there, and weld it on the bench and do a much better job than I will do by trying to weld this in the car. Also, welding the bottom of it will suck, and everything's easier on the bench.
Definitely.
Yeah. There's a good chance that because I left it together when I was welding it, the penetration was so great that I welded the two brackets together. It's a good chance that happened.
We have hammers.
I'm not saying it did, but it's a good chance. It's two pieces.
Oh.
Dude.
Dude, let me see.
Look at that.
Look at how close. Look at how good we were.
Right?
Wow.
Look at
See,
us.
like this, we can flatten out. But if you don't want to, we don't have to.
Yeah, it's like a register. I did that on purpose, just
Okay.
on that one side. Let's put it in the car.
Nice.
Wow.
We're gonna want fresh bolts.
Yeah, I'm out of welding on some of those. A little bit. Whoops. So do trans mount first. Dude.
No, I told him that I'll wait and then after. No, that's up there after research. Oh, we got blue? I thought we said after research. No. Yeah. Yeah, 'cause it's really after our research.
Headed to the warehouse so we can marry the body to the chassis once again.
We're tight on this side. You're good. Cross-side? Look at that cross member, everybody. Look at that. She's diffused. You're almost in. And you're in. Yeah, I'll stop it. Got it. I got it.
Easiest thing we've ever strapped down inside the old ATC.
Yeah, right.
I think we're ready to put the body back on the chassis. Ground down all the old weld. Even got this side primed. Ran out of weldable primer before we did that side, but that's not the end of the world. And we're gonna shuffle some cars right now, and then we'll bring our tube chassis back in the warehouse. This car is so fun. So fun.
It's like a jungle gym.
Hey chat, tell me your thoughts. Leave the logo on or take the logo off? I feel like this project was built on roadkill, refined on faster with Finnegan, and then tweaked on faster with Newberg and Caddy. It still feels like a roadkill project to me though. Prime the tops of the frame and the crossmember, just in case we do get a floor in here and decide not to take it back out. And now we can put the car back together. Question is, can we nail it without using the
Well, remember, you put the tire jacks. We need a jack in the rear because tires, they don't work on those big tires. I think we're going to be off a little bit here. Oh.
back home in the garage, up on jack stands, we have a plan for our next steps. And those next steps are to make a seat mount right there and right there. And after that, start sheet metaling the floor. I'm already excited about what's to come because our back seat sits significantly lower now than before, which gave us more room between the harness bar and the seat for rear passengers. The other thing I figured out though is the harness bar needs to come up 2 inches to match our front seat. Even more room back there. So good things to come. And you will see that soon on another episode of Finnegan's Garage. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Don't forget, go to fsmgarage.com right now and enter the contest because we are giving away that 3rd gen Camaro and it could be yours, as well as a whole bunch of other cool tools and autographed FSM merch. See you guys.